Hoyoverse is known for its massive roster of characters, gods, warriors, mercenaries, and monsters across multiple worlds. But hidden among all of that chaos is a character type that rarely gets the spotlight: the maids. Across games like Genshin Impact and Zenless Zone Zero, Hoyoverse has introduced several maid characters, with each their own strength, style, and fan bases. But two stand above the rest: Noelle, the ever-dutiful knight-in-training of Mondstadt, and Ellen Jo, the cold, deadly agent from New Eridu. Both are iconic, both are powerful, but when it comes to combat, which maid truly comes out on top? Hello everyone, Dusty here. In this video, I'll be talking about a very niche debate that isn't talked about as much, but is one that I'm very interested in. Like I already said, the two characters that will be going head-to-head in this video are Noelle from Genshin Impact and Ellen Jo from Zenless Zone Zero. I'll be comparing their stats such as strength, speed, durability, IQ, experience, and their abilities, as well as their equipment to come to the verdict on who wins this battle. Before we get to that, I need to tell you about their backstories, starting with Noelle. Noelle, like most of Mondstadt's young people, dreamed of becoming a member of the Knights of Favonius. While she wasn't quite ready to become one just yet, she decided to still be involved with them as she began working as a maid in the Knights' headquarters. Noelle was constantly taking notes on what constitutes knightly speech, knightly conduct, and knightly customs. She holds firm to her belief that one day she will join their ranks. Outside of her work with the Knights, she enjoys her personal life, wanting to help those in need. Noelle may be inexperienced and stubborn, but she tries her best to do what she believes is necessary and to help everyone she can. Ellen Jo is the newest member of the Victoria housekeeping. She is a laid-back, always tired shark Theron that attends high school in New Eridu. She is a popular student at the school, although she does have her preferred friend groups. Ellen's school life is balanced out with her job as a maid for Victoria housekeeping, where she specializes in security management and garden maintenance. Although she doesn't like physical activities, she is a reliable partner and she supports her teammates, who she also considers friends. So now that you know who these characters are, let's get to the main event. Like I said in the intro, I'll be comparing their stats to come to the verdict on which maid is superior. Let's begin by talking about the first stat, their strength. Noelle is one of many characters that don't get as much screen time as others. So like what I did with Razor in a previous video, we have to dig into the lore to find Noelle's feats. The lore states that Noelle is one of the physically strongest characters in the entire game. While obviously she's not as strong as the Archons, she is actually one of the physically strongest humans, to the point where she has been compared to the Adeptus. Noelle was capable of lifting and throwing multiple carts around with ease. These carts most likely weighed around 700 kilograms, or 1,543.23 pounds. However, Noelle's most impressive feat was the time where she was able to fight and defeat a Law Churl by herself. Law Churls are incredibly powerful monsters within the Genshin Impact game, and defeating one is very impressive, especially by yourself. Noelle should be comparable to Faressa, who was also able to defeat a Law Churl, which means Noelle should have around large building levels of strength. Ellen is a very strong character in her own right. She should be comparable to other agents like Alice and Monato, who were able to fight against the Sacrifices, which are humans that were transformed into powerful ethereals by the Exaltists to be much stronger than they are. A much weaker Sacrifice was capable of completely blowing apart a large industrial metal door. Doing the math by assuming the door is made of steel, since it hasn't been stated on what material it's actually made of, and by using the height of the Sacrifice comparable to the height of Wise, this is a blow worth 2,468,748,393 joules, which is a building level feat. Lyacon has also stated that he has full confidence that the members of the Victoria housekeeping could easily defeat the members of the Cunning Hares, despite seeing them in combat prior to their confrontation. So Ellen can be scaled to having building levels of strength, but with her passive ability called Sharp-Toothed, she can increase her damage output by a small amount, so overall she would have large building levels of strength. So who's stronger? Well, it's actually very close, as both of these characters would scale to large building levels at their peak. However, I give the slight edge to Noelle, mostly for her better physical strength over Ellen's. Ellen is very strong, but considering Noelle's lore is basically that she is one of the physically strongest humans around, I give her the edge. Now let's move on to speed. Noelle doesn't really have any speed feats to go off in either gameplay or the lore, so the best I can really scale her to is Subsonic due to her being somewhat comparable to the Anemo Traveler and being capable of defeating a Law Churl that was capable of tagging a Fatui soldier. So yeah, that's really the best I can get Noelle to, considering she doesn't have many speed feats. Ellen has a lot more to work with than Noelle. Ellen is able to casually react and block gunfire from artillery weaponry. Ellen was also able to intercept a missile that was about to hit Eos after it had already been fired. Most missiles move at speeds around 15,000 to 20,000 miles per hour, or 24,000 to 32,000 miles per hour. Kilometers per hour. So the fact that Ellen was able to run fast enough to intercept this missile that had already been fired would give her hypersonic speeds. What's funny is that not even 20 seconds later, Ellen proceeded to weave through and destroy even more missiles, so this is actually very consistent. So yeah, Ellen would take speed pretty easily. It helps that Noelle has basically no speed feats, while Ellen is over here dodging actual missiles and cutting through them with ease. It's also pretty obvious that hypersonic speeds are way faster than subsonic speeds. Ellen takes speed with low difficulty. Now let's move on to durability. Again, Noelle does not really have anything here. She doesn't show any explicit feats in either the game or the lore, so the only real way I can scale her durability is being able to take hits from Law Churls, so large building. Her durability should also be comparable with her physical strength, so again, large building level. Similar to Noelle, Ellen doesn't have that many feats of sheer durability, although she should be comparable to the other agents, who I mentioned earlier, who can fight the sacrifices, which I've already discussed, that even the weakest ones scale to building level. But Ellen's highest potential high end is large building due to scaling to stronger sacrifices and her own maximum attack output. Again, this is just a hypothetical high end, so if you don't really want to use it, then Ellen would only have building levels of durability. But with this high end, which is decently reasonable, she would have large building. So who takes the edge? Well, it's kind of hard to decide since both characters don't really have many feats. Although Noelle might take it due to her feats against Law Churls, but Ellen has a higher potential high end. It's pretty difficult to scale, but I'll give the edge to Noelle. This is mainly due to her having a higher baseline durability via scaling to the Law Churl over Ellen scaling to the Metal Door feat. Although, if you want to use the high-end scaling for Ellen I gave her, then they would tie. However, since, like I said, Noelle has more consistent baseline durability, I give the edge to her. Now let's move on to the next two stats, IQ and experience. Noelle has grown into a very intelligent warrior due to her time being around the Knights of Avonius. Noelle is also very studious, spending a lot of her time in the library with Lisa. Bennett, one of the most talented fighters in Mondstadt, has also complimented Noelle's skills. As for experience, Noelle has been training for most of her life to become a knight, as well as fighting off monsters like the Hilichurls for quite some time. So Noelle is a very intelligent and experienced warrior. Ellen is pretty smart in terms of both book and combat intelligence. She is a very successful student in school, always getting passing grades and even slightly above those. In the Victoria housekeeping, Ellen is a master when it comes to security management, which does take high levels of intelligence due to the amount of skill sets you need. In terms of combat, Ellen possesses high levels of skill and efficiency. She has defeated multiple ethereal by herself, and she does have a full understanding of her own abilities and strengths. As for experience, I already mentioned that she has fought lots of ethereals, and she's also been described in-game as having lots of battle experience from working as a member of Victoria Housekeeping. So who takes the edge in these stats? Well, both of them are very intelligent and also have lots of battle experience. I'm going to give the edge in IQ to Ellen, although this is mainly due to her having more impressive showings of intelligence. Ellen has a mastery in security management, which requires a lot more skill sets than just combat. Noelle is intelligent in her own right, but Ellen has shown or has been stated to have more useful skill sets and abilities. As for experience, I'm going to tie them. While yes, Noelle has potentially been fighting for longer than Ellen has fought a wider variety of opponents that we've seen, and has statements saying that her higher levels of experience. So Ellen takes the edge in IQ, but they would tie in experience. Before I come to the verdict on who wins, I need to talk about their abilities and their equipment. Noelle has some useful abilities on her side. First of all, Noelle's main ability is that she is able to create a force field around herself. This force field of pure geoenergy makes her totally immune to all damage for a small amount of time. What the shield is actually doing is absorbing a certain amount of damage before it breaks, which does mean that she is technically invulnerable in a sense until that shield takes too much damage and breaks, or 12 to 20 seconds pass and then it will go away automatically. When the shield goes away, Noelle has about a 24-second cooldown before she can use it again. Noelle also has a powerful tool on her side, her Geo Vision. This vision allows her to create geo constructs, use energy projection, and convert her defenses into an attack power increase. She can also use this vision to increase the length of her claymore for longer swinging range, as well as helping her deal increased damage with geo attacks. Also, as a fun added bonus, Noelle has enhanced hearing. So as you can tell, Noelle has some very useful abilities on her side. Ellen also has some very useful abilities. For starters, Ellen has frost manipulation, which allows her to rapidly lower the temperature of the environment, apply a freeze effect to the opponent, apply frostbite onto her opponent, which increases the amount of ice damage Ellen can inflict, and many more. I already mentioned earlier that Ellen's passive ability allows her to increase her damage output by a small amount, but it also increases the amount of ice damage she does. And her chance to land extra powerful blows goes up as well. Ellen is also able to reduce the damage she takes by 40% by using her dash attack, and when she is charging an attack, she has a chance to completely nullify damage from a single attack. How this translates to a real-time battle, I don't really know. Ellen can also slow down her perception to make it seem as if her opponent is moving in slow motion. Ellen has also shown resistance to corruption and mental attacks, as she is able to walk around it and fight in the hollows just fine. As for equipment, Ellen has her main W engine, named Deep Sea Visitor, which gives Ellen increased attack power and allows her ice attacks to hit harder. So who wins? Well, both characters are very similar in terms of stats, so that makes this fight pretty close. Noelle has useful abilities like her shield and manipulation of Geo, and Ellen is much faster and has her frost manipulation and her ability to slow down her perception. I give the win to Ellen for a few reasons. Despite Noelle's incredible physical power and her ability to withstand slightly stronger blows than Ellen, the fight is ultimately in favor of Ellen due to how their abilities interact with each other. Ellen's faster speeds allow her to completely control the pace of the battle, striking Noelle repeatedly before she could properly react or counterattack. While Noelle's shield prevents any immediate damage, it fails to block elemental effects. We see this in the game directly, as while actual damage is blocked by the shield, elemental effects still hit through. Meaning, Ellen could still freeze the environment, slow Noelle's movements, and weaken her through sustained frost exposure. Over time, this chips away at Noelle's ability to fight effectively, even before her shield is destroyed or disappears. When that shield actually goes down, Noelle is left very vulnerable during its cooldown since she can't spam the shield. And with the amount of ice debuffs that Ellen can potentially give her while she's using her shield, she's unable to truly keep up with Ellen or even stand much of a chance. And with no reliable way to tag Ellen and no real way to counter her abilities, Noelle will eventually be overwhelmed by Ellen's sheer speed and frost attacks. So while Noelle's shield is her best answer for countering Ellen's attacks, it's not really helping that much. And even if it was, Ellen's ability to slow down her perception allows her to hit her more precisely, and even gives her better openings to strike. So while Noelle does put up a good fight in the beginning, in the end, she just gets overwhelmed by Ellen's sheer speed and frost manipulation. And she doesn't really have any counters to these abilities besides her shield, but I've already said enough on how that's not really helpful. So the winner for this video is Ellen Joe with high difficulty. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you disagree with anything I said, make sure to comment down below, and I'll make sure to read all your comments. If you also want to recommend fights, you can comment those down below too, and I'll add them to the list of videos I make. Anyways, my name is Dusty, and I'm signing off. Have a wonderful day.